So my first video coming back to the channel is going to be more on a serious note. And I don't know exactly what I'm going to call this video or title this video once I make it, but for the most part, I can really say that I feel like I screwed my own life up. And honestly, for the most part, I can really say it's because I didn't listen to myself as much as looking back as much as I should have. One of the biggest ones being the fact that I really allowed people to peer pressure me into decisions that looking back weren't good for me. Many of them revolving around like college or the exact career that I go down or even like religious beliefs. And for the most part, I kept going along with it because I wanted to feel like I fit in with the group. And so I kind of, I guess, sacrificed things that I wanted just for the sake of feeling like I was part of the group. And honestly, being in the position that I'm in right now, it wasn't worth it. Other than that, I really brushed off a lot of toxic behavior from friends and family. And this included so many things, such as people just not respecting boundaries or others forcing arguments over little things that weren't as big of a deal as they made it out to be. And the thing for me is the fact that I was tolerating this type of behavior for years, and I can honestly say it led me to a position that I'm not happy with because it really prevented me from being able to do things that I really wanted to do that would have been good for me. But I cared more about what these people thought to the point that I gave up what I wanted just so I can say that I'm not alone. And it kind of sucks because honestly, I ended up being alone anyway because at this point I cut all these people out of my life. But then on top of that, I feel like I kind of set myself back. So now I feel like I'm kind of behind on life compared to where I could have been had I listened to myself earlier. And so with that said, I want to go into one of the main points I had for this video, and it's the fact that I really feel like I should have quit college a lot earlier. Now, I'm not one of those people who are going to say that like college is a complete waste of time or money and that nobody should ever go. I'm just saying specifically for me, I feel like I wasted a lot of time going to college because looking back, it wasn't really helping me get where I wanted to. It was going to help me get a job, but I realized that the job, it wasn't something I wanted, and I knew that what the job I was going to get was going to make me unhappy. And so for me, it's like no matter what amount of money this thing gives me or what type of stability it gives me, it's not worth it if I'm not happy with what I'm doing. And so because of that, I feel like I really wasted a lot of time staying in college instead of finding what I actually wanted to do. And so really like I should have dropped out a lot earlier and really took that time to find what I wanted to do and then make a plan on how to get there. And that's whether or not I would have returned to college or not. It doesn't matter. But instead, I kept listening to people online who are saying that you should stay in college if you don't have a backup plan. But honestly, looking at it, like it's not really a backup plan to go to college. It's not like you go to college, get a degree, and boom, you're guaranteed to get a job. That's not how it works. But instead of being honest with myself about that, I kept listening to what my parents were telling me to do or what society was expecting people of my age. And so I ended up staying in college and just kind of pushing through. But the problem is that it eventually started affecting my health. And I mean, as in like many things, such as like I was having a lot of nights where I just couldn't sleep, or I was constantly feeling angry all the time. And eventually it's hard to explain, but I kind of felt like empty inside. Like in a sense, I didn't feel anything. Like I just felt like I didn't really care about anything. And it got to the point where I stopped doing a lot of my hobbies. I wasn't hanging out with friends anymore. And I even gave up on a lot of personal goals that I wanted for myself. And it just left me in this position where I was just constantly unhappy. And I just felt worthless. And so eventually it got to the point where I went to my parents and I started admitting the fact that like I'm really unhappy in college. And their response to that was to start forcing payments on me. They started forcing me to pay for my textbooks for my classes and even started making me pay for fees for when you sign up for classes for the next semester. And so now I'm in a position where I'm unhappy going to college. And on top of that, I have to pay for it because of the fact that I'm admitting the fact that I'm unhappy because they made it clear that they don't want to hear that. And so now they kind of force these payments on me in a way to make me shut up about it. And so I just ended up putting up with it for like 3 years. But like knowing where I am right now, I really wish I stood up for myself more because now it got to the point where I feel like I wasted all this time going to college. I was forced to spend hundreds of dollars out my own pocket because I'm admitting to the fact that I'm unhappy. And then on top of that, I didn't really get anything out of it anyway. And so because of that, I really feel like I should have stood up for myself a lot more and dropped out a lot earlier than I did. And so another one of my main points I wanted to mention is the fact that I really kept around a lot of bad relationships. And honestly, this goes for both friends and family. Now, not every one of them was bad. I definitely had family members here and there who were really there for me. And on top of that, I definitely had a good amount of like good friends in my life. But the problem is that as we got older, their careers kind of required them to move out of state. And so because of that, we just couldn't hang out anymore. And so what I ended up doing was I kept around a lot of friends who really looking back weren't good for me. And I know like back then it was because of the fact that I felt like it was better to have these people around than to be by myself. But knowing where I am right now, it just wasn't worth it. And so starting with my friends, it could be over something as little as like I beat them in a video game and they got annoyed by it, or they didn't really care about hearing me talk about like what I wanted to do with my life, or even got to the point where it's like if they knew something was going on, like something bad was happening, like maybe I lost a family member. That didn't happen to me. It's just an example. They made it clear that they didn't really care. Like I even had one of them outright tell me that like he just doesn't want to hear about it. And honestly, looking back, that should have been the biggest red flag for me that I should have cut this person off. And this was somebody who I was going to high school with. Like this isn't like just an online friend. This was someone who I knew in person. And he made it clear that he just did not care. Now, other than that, there was things with my family, specifically my parents, where they were constantly starting arguments over anything that we disagreed on. And I'm not talking about something like they told me to do the dishes and I just didn't feel like doing it. I'm talking about things like the exact type of jobs I've worked or like the career path that I went down as opposed to what they wanted, or the type of school I went to where they wanted me to go to college, but I ended up going to sort of like a trade school. And it even got to the point with like religious beliefs where now we're at the point where I have different religious beliefs from them. And they argued with me about it because it's just what they've been taught in church. And an example of something that they do, more specifically, my dad, he would like barge into the room. He'd start an argument over something that we disagreed on. And what he would do is like after he got the last word, he would like slam the door and then he'd barge back into the room and like basically repeat it over and over again until I basically did or said whatever he wanted. Now, this didn't happen like all the time. It's not like it happened like every single night or anything, but it happened enough and often enough to the point that it just got really annoying for me. And similar to the first situation, my parents would also do something else where like they would call me into their room and they would like start an argument over something that we disagreed on. And it would get to the point where they get so angry that they just tell me to leave. But then like a few minutes later, they would like call me back into the room. And like I said, similar to the first situation, they would basically just keep repeating it over and over again until I either did or said whatever it is that they wanted me to do. And really looking back at it, I really should have called them out a lot more on it. But I kept listening to like what other family members were saying or like listening to what society expects, where like no matter what, as the child, you're supposed to respect your parents. You're supposed to obey what they say. But looking back at it, is like what they wanted me to do was something that was making me unhappy or it didn't help me. But I kept on listening to the whole thing of how you have to listen to them and you have to obey them, honor them no matter what, just because of the fact that they're your parents. But knowing where I am right now, I should have cut these people off too because it got, well, not cut them off. I'm at the point where I'm at limited contact with them, but I should have done this a while ago because they weren't helping my situation either. And so, with all of that said, my life right now is not as bad as I'm making it out to be in this video, but I honestly, oh, voice crack. But I honestly was like in this type of position like literally just a few weeks ago before I was making this. And so I kind of just wanted to make that video because I really feel like this is something people need to be honest with themselves about because I wasn't being honest with myself and that put me in a position that I was just really unhappy with. But right now, my life's actually a lot better because I made a lot of changes, such as I think it's pretty obvious off of what I was saying earlier. I dropped out of college, and dropping out of college, it really helped me realize that going to college, it was not helping me with where I needed to be. And then you combine that with the fact that I just didn't know what I truly wanted to do with my life yet. And I really know now that like I was wasting so much time going to college. And so basically, once I dropped out, I ended up going to this online animation school instead because what I'm doing right now is 3D animation. And the new school, it was way better. It really helped me get what I needed in order to do what I want. And so basically, after I finished the school, I ended up really kind of pursuing my goals when it came to 3D animation. But even though things were working out, once I started doing that, I was getting a lot of backlash from like friends and family. And I won't lie, it was getting to me at first. But over time, after things started working out and I started getting all these opportunities, it started affecting me a lot less because over time I realized like what these people are trying to tell me I need to do, they don't really even care about what I want. And so the path that they were trying to make me go down was something that was going to make me unhappy anyway. And so it eventually kind of clicked for me like, why am I listening to these people and they're not even trying to help me get where I actually want to go with my life? And so once I realized that, I basically just like immediately cut off all of these people because I realized that having these people in my life was what was preventing me from being able to do what I wanted to do. And I won't lie, it definitely felt lonely for some time, for maybe like a few months or so. But things did eventually start getting better for me because once I cut all these people out of my life, I started going to a lot more social gatherings in my city. And by doing that, I was able to meet a good amount of people who became new friends for me. And even if they weren't friends, they were people who were in my career field who really helped me even be able to get my first job. And thanks to that, I'm now meeting even more people who eventually can become new friends for me and maybe even get me more opportunities in the future. And for the most part, this all happened because I started being a lot more honest with myself and my situation. And once I kind of like cut all these people out of my life and started making all these changes, things started getting better. And honestly, that's one of the main reasons I wanted to make this video because I really feel like there's a lot of people out there who are in a similar position to me where you're in a position that makes you unhappy, and yet you're still being around all these people who aren't good for you, or you're kind of ignoring what you really want just for the sake of being able to please the people around you. And it's like I can't blame you because it's like I know that feeling of the fact that you want to like feel like you fit in with everybody else. But I'm making this video because I wanted to tell you that it's just not worth it. Like I did the exact same thing and I feel like I really set myself back a lot of years because I didn't listen to myself more. And so I basically ended up ignoring what I really wanted just for the sake of being able to please the people around me, and on top of that, I kept keeping people around who weren't good for me anyway. And so I really just wanted to make this video because I really wanted people to really start being a lot more honest about their situation so that they can really make it better for themselves. And I know it's depending on everybody's situation, it's not going to be as simple as that because I'm like, even for me, it wasn't that simple. And I'm still pretty young. I'm still just in my early 20s. But even if that is the case, especially if you're young, please start listening to yourself more because I'm telling you, it's not worth putting up with that just for the sake of feeling like you fit in with everybody else around you. It's not worth it. And I promise you, if you really put in the effort to really start listening to yourself more and start really putting in the effort to really go towards what you actually want with your life, I promise you it really is worth it. Because I'm way happier now that I started listening to myself more. And so I really hope somebody got something out of this because I'm definitely planning to make a lot more videos like this because honestly, for me, I feel like nobody ever should feel like they're kind of stuck in a situation that they're unhappy with, especially when you're young. When you're young, it's really more important than anything that you really make the right decisions for yourself so you can kind of avoid putting yourself in a position like I did. And so if there's anything you can get from this video, please start listening to yourself more because I'm telling you, it really is worth it in the long run. And so yeah, like I said, that's basically everything I wanted to say in this video. I really hope somebody got something out of this, and I'll see you guys in the next one.